Have you started working out recently, or maybe even a few weeks or months ago, and you're not seeing a difference in your weight, and you're confused and frustrated because you went from not working out to adding workouts into your life, but you feel like you're not seeing a difference in your body?
This is a very common problem. There's a good amount of people that will start doing an activity or make a change to what they're currently doing, and then not quite see the initial results that you might be expecting. And there's a few reasons why. And so for today, what we're going to be doing is covering those couple reasons why you may not be losing weight, even though you might have implemented something like a new diet or implemented something like a new workout into your program or your daily life, and what you're doing that may be causing you to actually not see the results that you want, which is obviously to lose weight.
Reason number 1. You are overeating on calorie-dense foods. And this is something that you really need to pay attention to, because a lot of people have an idea that certain foods are healthy foods, and they may think that they can eat as much as they want of those foods. But really, calorically dense foods are going to take up a lot of your calorie allowance for the day, maybe without you realizing. For example, nuts are often talked about as like, oh, that's a healthy fat, that's a healthy food, but they're very easy to overeat.
Yeah, so, and again, another one that is very common for people to almost overeat is going to be the little things, the little snacks, right? Just imagine if I walk around an office all day and, I only maybe do this 3 or 4 times, but there's the coworker that has a desk of M&Ms on their or a jar of M&Ms on their desk, and twice a day I walk around and just grab a small handful, right? Well, it's not so much that the small handful initially is a lot of calories, but you do that twice a day, or you do that twice a day a couple times a week, and all of a sudden you're wondering, where the hell am I getting these extra calories? And they're all from that mystery food that you decided to grab off someone's desk.
Yes, and number 2, you are overestimating what you're burning. So you're thinking, and it might even be subconsciously, you're thinking, oh, I'm going to the gym 4 or 5 days a week, I need to eat more because I'm burning all these calories.
Yeah, and another big false there, or a false positive that you might receive, is if you are going to the gym and maybe you're jumping on one of their machines, such as a treadmill or an elliptical, they've got this thing called a fat burning zone, and they've also got something that tells you where you're at calorie wise. Well, the truth is, that's not your actual calorie burn. That's just an idea of where you might be, right? A lot of your calories and your calorie burn and your metabolism has to do with the amount of exercise you have, the amount of muscle tone that you carry, and your general fitness and activity level throughout the day. So if you're constantly sitting all day, but you go and do some workouts, you might be burning calories, but what you're getting on a digital display or a fit tracker or something like that is not necessarily as accurate as we might believe.
And if your goal is, if you are overweight and you have excess body fat and your goal is to lose that body fat, you can't add calories because you're working out, because essentially you're balancing it out and you're not doing anything different because you're adding more calories because you're working out. You need to be working out and not adding more calories, or figuring out, where it needs to be at.
Basically, you just need to be in a caloric deficit, and we create the caloric deficit by doing 2 things. This is why a fully encompassing program is the most beneficial for transformation and weight loss and body composition changes, because you want to focus on the fitness portion and you want to focus on the nutrition portion. When both of those, when you set the calories and then put your body in a deficit by the calories as well as a deficit by the training, you don't have to starve yourself, but you actually get to achieve the results that you want while giving the body the fuel and nutrition that it needs to live the life that you want with the energy levels that you want while still achieving the results that you want.
And as you get stronger, your metabolism gets better, so you actually can eat more. So that's something to look forward to in the future. Number 3, you are underestimating the weight of your food and how much food you're actually eating. So some of you might be kind of casually tracking your food. You're like, oh, I don't want to be like hardcore about it and stress myself out, but I'm kind of going to keep track of what I'm eating. And you're just guessing the number of ounces or how much you're eating, and most of the time people underestimate in those situations.
Very much so. Just realize this: if you go out to eat, what they're telling you on the calories is a suggestion, okay? That's, again, they're not weighing and measuring out every nutrient and everything that they're putting in their meal. They're going to give a optimal recommendation of what the calories are, but it's not going to be truly 100% accurate. The other thing that we oftentimes forget is that our serving sizes is not the serving size that is on a box or a chart or something like that. So if you look at a can of a Red Bull, unless you're looking at the smallest Red Bull that they make, which is an 8-ounce can, that can is not one serving size. It's actually 1.5 to 2 or even 3. The same thing, if you eat cereal and I pour into a bowl, this is a perfect idea for this, guys. If you eat cereal and you pour it into a bowl, what they're giving you as the calories is 1 cup.
No,
half a cup. Now, when you pour a bowl, you're almost always going to be using probably 3 to 4 cups, right? Which means that you're going 3 to 4 times over the amount of calories that you're thinking you're having, because the quantity is not what you're actually using. So you want to make sure that when you're doing these things, you know what you're eating or consuming, or you understand how much of it you are consuming to make proper guidance and proper nutrition changes. Another way to think about this, guys, is that if you look at your bank account, you can go to the store, but every time you go to the store, you know exactly how much the purchase price is, right? If you went to the store and you didn't know the purchase price, you'd be hesitant about buying something because you don't know if you'd be overspending or if you'd overdraft your account. Well, imagine the same thing happens every time you eat. When you eat without measuring, you're walking into a store without having price tags, and you're making a purchase hoping that you have enough money in your bank account to support the purchase that you just made.
Now, number 4 is you are fully sedentary outside of the gym. This is something to take into account, and it goes kind of hand in hand with one of our other points that you're overestimating how much you're burning.
So on this one, guys, if we think that we move more than we do, the truth is we don't. A majority of us sit a good amount of the day. Just realize this: you wake up. What is the thing that you're doing when you wake up? You're laying down, not moving, okay? Once you get up and you start moving, you might move for maybe an hour. If you're like Serena, she takes forever to get ready. It takes me 10 minutes or less, right? So I'm up for 10 minutes. Then guess what do? I go sit in my car. And now if you're like anybody in most of the South Sound, Tacoma area, you're commuting. And you're commuting probably 15 to 30 minutes. Do that twice a day now, right? So I've gotten out of bed, which I was sedentary. I've now moved for 5 to 10 minutes, in my case, an hour in her case, and then you go sit again, anywhere between 5 to another hour. Then, guess what you do? You park, and usually you try and park as close as you can to wherever you're trying to go into. So you try and find the front row parking spot, and then you walk for all of 5 minutes to your workplace. Now guess what you do? You sit on your ass for the rest of the day. You might have a couple stints of getting up and being active, or you might walk around. But that's not burning much, and that's not really doing much.
And you might be getting up and eating your coworkers' M&Ms.
And you might be getting up and actually ruining your activity by doing something that deters that activity, right? So if I get up and say, oh, I'm walking around, awesome, I can now enjoy these handful of almonds or whatever it might be, M&Ms, guess what? You've actually probably eaten double the amount of calories that you just tried to burn off. So then you go back and you sit at your desk until 4, 5, 6, whatever time you get off, and guess what? You get back in your car, you go to home, or maybe you come to the gym. Maybe you come to the gym in the morning or the night, but you only probably work out 1 or 2 times. Then, guess what you do? You get back in your car and you head home. Once you're home, you make your dinner, you enjoy some time, but I bet you're probably sitting down. Guess what? We're probably overvaluating the amount of exercise and activity that we're doing. Almost everybody is. So if you're not losing weight, you're over-evaluating the amount of energy you're expanding on a daily basis. And that's why you're not seeing the results you want, because you're saying to yourself, I'm being active, when really you're just doing some activity.
Yes. And number 5 is you are not tracking your intake. And again, this goes kind of hand in hand with what we were saying about measuring your food. You should be tracking your intake. Now, I understand that some people are like, look, I don't want to be like stressed out and feeling like I can't eat unless I'm tracking it first or writing it down or whatever. One suggestion I have is to kind of just plan out your days in advance, so you're not like, oh, before I eat anything, I have to make sure it fits in my day. That makes it a little easier. And also, even you might just have to track for a little while to get a better idea of what you're eating and where you're at, and then you don't have to track so strictly, and then you don't have to be like, oh, I don't want to be tracking my food all the time and feeling stressed about it.
But again, the importance of tracking is much just like your bank account. You don't want to overdraft your bank account, just like you don't want to overdraft the amount of calories or consumption that you do have on a daily basis. You wouldn't just go spend money frivolously all day long hoping that you have enough funds in your bank account. You know that if you have $100, you're not going to go make 6 purchases that all total up to 140. That just is illogical, and you're going to have an overdraft. Now, in the case of your weight loss, your overdraft is actually a positive of weight gain. Right? And that's very frustrating because you think you're doing all this stuff right, but you're not, because you're not making the correct calculations. And the truth is, if you don't track something, you can't manage it. You can't manage what you don't track. If you don't have numbers, you don't have ideas, you can't correctly see what's going on and make the proper adjustments.
Yes. Now, moving on to number 6. Number 6 is you are overestimating the amount of protein in your foods. This is easy to do because I have a lot of people tell me that they're eating certain things or they're eating a lot of protein, and I see what they're eating and they're not eating a lot of protein. And I'll let Jeff kind of talk a little bit about why protein is important.
Now, protein is probably one of the fewest things that you guys actually consume. To be honest, when I see most meal plans, or not meal plans, but when you guys report back to me, like when I see food logs and journals, usually the amount of protein the average person consumes is about 20% of their calories. It's very, very few. And a majority of your calories are coming from fats and carbohydrates. Imagine, you go out to dinner and you eat a salad. Yeah, the salad's delicious, but guess what? That salad probably only has 4 ounces of chicken on it. That 4 ounces of chicken is about 20 grams of chicken on it. And that 20 grams is only 100 calories of chicken. But guess what? You've probably smothered it or covered it in ranch or blue cheese or bacon or something else that has now taken almost all the protein out and made more calories just in carbs and fat. And then you struggle to get the protein to help replenish your body the proper way it needs. So making sure that you're eating an adequate amount of protein is very, very important, and that's considering things like eating protein or protein supplements in the morning and nighttime. It's making sure that you're eating enough or frequently. Now, a big thing for protein, guys, is with the other 2 food sources, fats and carbs, you can eat those 2 to 3 times a day, which is perfectly fine. You can have larger chunks of those because those are things that we usually tend to enjoy a little bit more, right? I would much rather enjoy a bunch of bread than probably go eat a chicken breast, right? Like it's a little bit more enjoyable to eat, more pleasurable, and you do it more often. What you will want to do is to get more protein in your diet is just a simple trick of increasing the frequency of eating. Just with protein. If you go and eat protein 5 to 6 times a day, just even if it's 20 grams at a time, a protein bar here, a protein shake there, some meat here, some meat there, eggs later, or whatever you may want to do, but spreading your protein out 5 to 6 times a day can actually increase and improve the benefit of your protein while making it much easier and sustainable for you to do.
And another thing to remember, protein helps keep you fuller longer, and protein is oh my gosh, I'm like choking.
Protein is also a
thermogenic macronutrient. So it's burning more calories as it's in your body as you're digesting it. It burns more calories than when you're digesting fats and carbs. And that's another reason why we'll give you a little higher protein when you're trying to burn fat, lose fat.
So if that whole idea of thermogenic doesn't make sense to you quite, basically what it means is that as you consume, let's say you consume 100 calories of protein. Well, when the body has to break down protein, the body has to work very hard. The stomach has to engage a little bit more. It's not as easy for the body to break these proteins down. And when that happens, it's like when a battery has to get used more, right? So I guess I can use it as a home improvement terminology. If you have a drill and you have a bolt that's stuck in the wall that's very easy, it's just in the sheetrock, right? It will take it right out, okay? But if you have the same bolt or a larger bolt that's plugged into the frame of the house or a major piece of wood and it's anchored and locked, and then you use that same drill, the drill will have to exert more force to create the force to pull out the drill or the bit. Now, the same thing applies for protein. When the protein has to be digested, the body has to work a lot harder to digest and break down the protein. So usually, again, if you're only eating 100 calories of protein, when you're all said and done digesting the protein, you've now fully and consumed about 75, because 20 to 25% of the calories are burned just in the breakdown process of protein.
Now, moving on to number 7. This is a good one. you are underestimating the calories and carbs in alcohol when you guys are drinking alcohol. Now, when you put alcohol in MyFitnessPal, those numbers aren't accurate. It's gonna put lower calories than it actually is.
First off, before she even continues, let's all be really honest and say this, that if you pour a shot for yourself, you pour way more than that shot. I know I do, because
It's not 1 ounce.
Because when I get a shot glass, I'm not pouring it up to the line, I'm pouring it up to the brim, right? And I'm sure you do the exact same. So you might be under equating your calories. And here's another thing, guys. I get this question a lot. Do calories does alcohol count? Do I have to count my alcohol? Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to count those things because it's still a calorie. And a calorie is a calorie is a calorie. And they all build up to either a positive or a negative deficit or too many calories on your daily budget.
And I'm gonna be a little bit of a downer right now, but if your goal is weight loss and you are on a plan where you are already in a caloric deficit, you're working out hard, you're limited on food, you are gonna have to be a little hungry to lose weight. I really strongly recommend avoiding alcohol as much as you can, because if you're filling yourself up with those calories, then you don't have room in your caloric allowance for the day to even get in the foods and nutrients that you need to perform.
And the other thing about alcohol, guys, is it actually hinders the ability, the body's ability to recover and restore itself. So if you are drinking after a workout, or you go and have wine every night after you go and have your session because you earned it, you're actually negating the impact that you just tried to have. So you're actually probably doing more damage than if you just skipped a workout and skipped drinking altogether. Like, I would honestly say that it would be more beneficial for you to not work out and not drink than to work out and then go drink after, because it will have a negative impact, as well as it will just store as things that you don't want it to.
Yes. And now moving on to number 8. We're not really going to talk much about this because we kind of got carried away when we were talking about protein earlier. Number 8 on our list was you're not eating enough protein, and we already kind of went over that.
Protein, protein, protein. Get it in, guys. Try and get 5 to 6 meals a day. Small meals are much easier to do with this, and just spread them out. You know, wake up, have a protein shake. Before you get to work, have a protein bar. At lunch, have something that's a little bit higher in protein. So something like a large chicken breast salad. For a midday meal or snack, you know, again, have another protein shake. For dinner or breakfast, you know, have an omelet. For dinner, have, you know, steak or chicken, or make something, you know, stuffed chicken even, because that's good and healthy in a large quantity of protein.
I love string cheese. I eat string cheese every freaking day. 2 pieces of string cheese is 14 grams of protein. If you get the light kind, it's only like 4 or 5 grams of fat. Just a fun fact for you guys.
And number 9.
Number 9 is you are off your diet on the weekends.
So this is a big one, guys. You make money all week long. You spend it perfectly so you have a surplus, or maybe you're just spending evenly. Then on Saturday and Sunday you say, hey, I've got my credit card, let's go crazy. And so you rack up a huge bill every Saturday and Sunday. And then on Monday you're like, shit, how do I pay this thing off? You wouldn't do that, right? Because that doesn't make sense. Well, what happens is if you have a perfect week all week, but then you go ham on the fucking weekends and go crazy and splurge and don't track or do anything, it's like going into your weekend with an open credit card, spending everything you can, and then wondering, how am I going to pay this off? Because it's very hard, because now you've put yourself in a calorie debt, and the calorie debt means that you have so many calories that you probably might have actually gained weight just in that process or the weekend.
And if you think about it, if you're good all week, if you're good Monday through Thursday, that's 4 days. And then you're bad on the weekends, Friday after work, Saturday, Sunday, that's 3 days. Practically half the time you're eating shitty. And even if you only do 2 days or 1 day, like, oh, Serena, I only do it on Saturday, or I only do it on Sunday. Sunday's my cheat day. You shouldn't have a cheat day. A cheat meal is another thing we can talk about later, but not a cheat day.
So I will actually dive in just a little bit on that. Usually you want to keep it to a 90-10 rule. If you do have to cheat, keep it to a 10% of your total amount of meals. What that means is if you do eat 6 meals a day over the course of 7 days, that's 42 meals. You could realistically cheat 4 meals a week if you had a perfect other 38, right? If you just follow the 90-10 rule and you are perfect 90% of the time with a little bit of slip up on the 10%, you will actually still see results. But if you slip more than that, realize you're probably going to be overspending quite a lot.
And that's true for most people, but I will just make a comment that depending on how ham you are capable of going when you cheat, that might not be accurate. Now for me, I'm pretty disgusting when I cheat, and I can eat like, I don't know, a dozen donuts, 2 bowls of ice cream, like an entire pizza. We're not talking about that kind of cheating. We're talking about like a cheat meal that's a normal size meal, and not like balls to the wall.
Yep. If you're cheating, imagine it's just like any other meal, right? You don't go into it looking like it's going to the fair. You look at it like you're actually eating a meal, and it wants to be sustainable, right? So if I was to do a cheat meal, maybe that cheat meal is 2 or 3 slices of pizza, not the whole thing, right? Consider what you're considering a meal. And the last and final point.
Number 10 is, we kind of got a little carried away with one of our other topics, so we already kind of covered it, but number 10 is you're eating back your exercise calories. Like, oh, I burned this many calories when I worked out, so I'm gonna eat it. And some of you, like on the treadmill and stuff, remember what we said about those numbers not being accurate. You can't be like, oh, I burned 500 calories on the treadmill for 40 minutes. I'm gonna eat an extra 500 calories now.
It's all too often that people will actually negatively impact themselves by making a poor decision following their training session because they think they earned it, it's a reward. But really all you're doing is just offsetting the balance and actually not seeing any results. So one of the biggest things that I do see is number 10, that people will offset their actions by doing a negative action, which equals a negative action. It equals a negative reward, which is, in this case, no weight loss.
Which is so shitty because you're working hard and you're motivating yourself, you're getting in the gym, you're doing the right stuff, and then you're just screwing yourself by, eating them back and doing the negative things like that. And we also have one more final point that we wanted to go over with you guys really quick. Remember to always track your progress, not just with your weight. I know that this video is about weight loss, and because a lot of people talk about that. They focus on the number and they ask, I'm not losing weight, I'm not losing weight. Make sure you're tracking your progress with measurements and photos as well.
Yeah, and measurements aren't just necessarily measurements of your body, but measurements such as, obviously, weight. We've got body fat measurements. We've also got tape measurements, so measuring the size and diameter and measurements of yourself, but also measurements of things such as sleep, such as happiness, such as energy levels, such as performance, such as strength improvements, such as the ability to, stay focused, right? Those are all different measurements that we oftentimes neglect because we're so focused on the weight loss, and we don't even realize that we've seen huge improvements in everything else, and we have more energy, and we don't need to sleep as much, and we feel better throughout the day, and I'm stronger and I'm more conditioned. But we don't see that because the weight didn't change.
Right. And once you start having all those other huge results in your life in other areas, it means you're doing a really good job, you're doing really well, and all you have to do is just dial in your nutrition a little bit better, and you'll start seeing the weight loss that you're after.
And oftentimes, that's just the building blocks to start the platform, right? So sometimes the weight loss might not initially happen, but you're doing a lot of things right. But what's happening is all those other measurements that I was mentioning are like Legos that go on the base of a board. And then once those Legos are in place, the real results start to happen because now the weight loss and every other action has a Lego place to get connected to. And it basically builds these blocks of results.
Yep.
And so that is our 11, if I had an extra thumb, 11 tips and reasons why you may not be losing weight or not be losing the weight that you want, all because you might be doing 1, 2, or even 11 of these things just slightly off. And again, it's not a huge overhaul, so focus on perfecting one at a time, or finding what you might be doing just slightly wrong and improve it 1% daily, just 1% daily. I don't need you to go eat 7 meals of protein today, but if you normally eat 3, tomorrow try and eat 4, and for the next week continue to eat 4, and then the following week add 1 more. And guess what? In 2 weeks you've changed a habit and you've elicited a positive response, and it was easy to do. Don't overwhelm yourself by trying to do all these things or try and find the most complicated. Literally look for the easiest domino to do. And for you, that might be, maybe it's not having the alcohol after you work out, maybe it's actually tracking. Find whatever it is that's easiest for you to start today, take that action, rewatch this video next week, take another action, rewatch the video next week, and take another action. Do that consistently every week, and you will far surpass yourself in any time or results. And the truth is, if you don't, you're going to be rewatching this video in 4 months, and you're going to wonder what the hell happened and why you didn't see a result. Because you didn't make a change, or you tried to do too much instead of just doing the simple things.
Small improvements daily lead up to big results for you guys, and it's much better to start making small changes every day, something that you'll actually follow and stick with, than being like, okay, I watched this video, I'm gonna do all 11 things they said, and then you're not gonna do it. And then
exactly.
you're gonna be in the same spot.
And so now, if you guys want some extra assistance, you guys want us to put together a plan, a nutrition program, a fitness training program that's going to help get you the positive results that you want quickly, efficiently, and effectively, while saving yourself time, mental stress, as well as a process that you can actually enjoy through nutrition, training, accountability, association, and fun, then click on the link above. Let's have a conversation. Let's see how we can work together to take you from where you are to where you want to be quickly, efficiently, and effectively. Bye, guys.